to my parents' shed. Actually staying out at my parents' for this whole quarantine time. So 4 weeks I have to be in quarantine, much like everyone else. So yeah, just working from home, working from here. And I get to work on the car, hang out on the farm, ride the motorbikes, just do whatever really. So it's the right time. But yeah, first on the list is what came in the post the other day. Some new wheel nuts. Went a little bit baller. I wanted some, I don't know, something different. So I ended up getting these gold ones. Came from AliExpress, so they took forever. I bought them last year sometime, kind of forgot about them. So yeah, gonna whack those on. Should be interesting what they look like, given that it's all black now, with bits of gold accent on it. I went for gold because I've got like zinced bolts inside the engine bay and stuff, and they're all gold. So it's quite a cool look. So I thought, why not give it a whirl? So yeah, that's basically day one of quarantine. We'll be doing these, and then see what else happens really. I've got a block here that's the old block that I want to just have a look at. I want to actually put one of the old pistons back in it. I've got the old pistons on the shelf. I want to try put one back in and actually just measure so like deck clearance, because yeah, like I said earlier in the videos, I got a note with the head saying that the pistons were hitting the head. So I'm quite keen to see if I can actually see any measurement there, or if it was point something of a mil or whatever. So we'll give that a whirl and just piece that back together and tighten some things up and spin it around. But yeah, let's get to putting these nuts on. I'm pretty stoked at how that came out. Actually looked quite good. Good bit of bling in there. Just changes it up. Different look. Really not one for a bit of bling either, so kind of cool. Quite shiny. So I put the old feeler gauge on the engine down here. So I've tried basically putting the feeler gauge against this, make sure that the piston wasn't actually proud, and the feeler gauge still had space, so the deck clearance was definitely within spec from what I can see. Yeah, it's not, I suppose, a super accurate way of checking, but yeah, I'm pretty sort of happy that it was actually alright. Just thinking now that yeah, the lead cause was just low ignition and too much load basically. But yeah, kind of interesting that there was markings on each piston up top here. So it could be that it was awfully close and there was, I suppose, bits of carbon building up and it was hammering away. But yeah, so that's that. I'm dissecting the 86 a bit. Got the dash out and all the plastic bits around it out. I'm trying to get the oil pressure gauge to work. So for some reason the wiring's a bit funky in this thing. And the dash I've changed over time. The dash that I had was just a base model one, didn't have the oil pressure gauge, but now I've got one that does. But I've never had it actually working. So I've just been playing around with the wires, trying to figure out what's going on. And it seems to be that the ribbon on the dash on one of these points is actually broken. So I've now got the dash in the shed. And I'm going to solder a new joint in. So yeah, one of the ribbons that runs across here is actually broken. So I'm going to move it to another ribbon that's not used. There's a blank one out here. So I'm going to solder a joint in between these two, much like that one is. That's the one that's not working, so it's actually takes that one away and you solder it there. So yeah, soldering running out. I'm waiting for that to heat up. Join that up, and then in theory then I should be able to make the gauge actually work. Because yeah, it's never actually worked. And I don't actually have a pressure sensor like you would on a normal ae86. So I've actually got a pressure sensor running to the ECU. So what I'm planning to do is actually, basically the ECU will just earth out the gauge when it's high pressure, and then if it ever drops out, then the ECU will stop and it will actually drop the gauge. So it's either going to be high or low, basically a good indicator. I could run a factory sensor, but I have to then tee in again another sensor into the car. I've already got a tee off for the turbo and tee off for the gauge for the ECU, so we'll see if this works, and if it does then that'd be cool. All my gauges then will work. Pulled out the old bonnet that I had. So I had an original bonnet that came with the car. It's shot to pieces. So rusty, with dings in it. But what my thinking was is try to sort of save it. Not common anymore to buy a bonnet like that. So basically cut out what I don't need and see if I can. The skin seems to be alright, so see if I can straighten up the skin. And then either remake these bits or scavenge from another bonnet, I'm not sure. And then I'll paint it black, so then I have like a black bonnet to run. Carbon, could wrap it in carbon I suppose. Black carbon bonnet, just something different. And then I was toying with the idea to flip the wastegate around and have it exit actually out the bonnet. So like a hole in the bonnet, have the external gate out the bonnet, just for those times when you want to get rowdy. So for annoying everyone down the road and for going nuts at the track, kind of cool. Black bonnet and external gate out the bonnet. But yeah, we'll see what happens. Should be easy enough because the gate you can take and spin around, and then that will point forward and that will basically roll up a tube that then comes out the bonnet, like a teardrop cut on the top of it. And then just make a plate that will blanket off. But yeah, another thing to do if I get bored. Just drop that back and tidy it up and see if I can fix some bits, and then paint it black. It'd be kind of a cool little project and something different.